Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has just appealed the most absurd ruling that says that he defrauded banks when banks themselves made money, literally told the court he did nothing wrong, and will actually loan him money again in the near future to pay for any initial fine. This is a Newsweek article. The victory here is that he started the process. He will not pay that $450 plus million or $350 million, depending on the penalty added on every single day. He won't pay that. So, and I explained in the past couple of live streams, the man, everything he touches turns to gold in terms of business ventures. He just made $10 billion in a merger with Truth Social, the SEC allowing Truth Social to merge with the digital company. So hit subscribe. In a couple of seconds, you will hear experts talk about why this ruling will be overturned. You'll hear Kevin O'Leary, you'll hear Jonathan Turley, you'll hear Alina Habba, you'll hear from President Trump himself, but there's no way that they're going to score any type of political victory against Trump. Everyone knows that this is purely political, partisan, and this has nothing to do with the rule of law. This is the antithesis of the rule of law, ladies and gentlemen. So hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, thank you so much. And let's get started. We will hear right now from very successful, very intelligent Kevin O'Leary.
Shark Tank co-host Kevin O'Leary joins me now. Kevin, does tweeting something like that make her look like, a dispassionate lawman?
I think the challenge with the aftermath of decision is twofold. One is, will it stand? Because it's probably not good for the environment in New York to attract capital for real estate development. It seems a little excessive, and obviously when challenged in the appellate court, many assume that it will be adjusted downward, and maybe not eliminated, but be more appropriate for the fact that this was a victimless crime in the context of monies lost. There wasn't any. And so also this law was used for the first time in 75 years to get this outcome. And so I think that would be examined as well by the appellate court in New York. I find it, really what I care about, my kids live in New York. I mean, I want New York to be a successful state. I want people to go there and create companies and invest in it. But every day that passes, the environment gets more toxic in terms of traffic of capital. And remember, investors don't have to go to New York. They have other choices. And that's clearly what's happening, is people are saying, why go there when there's this kind of risk? And everybody's asking this question: who's next? Because that's the challenge to quell down the concerns people have, not just domestically. This is a global story. This is about the competitiveness of New York State versus other states, and right now it's not looking good for New York.
So imagine if the tables were turned. Imagine if you had Republican prosecutors. Well, I mean, you could see what they're doing, protecting Hunter and his laptop. You could see that every single time there's, whether it's the foundation, Bill and Hillary's, or the laptop with Biden, you have 50 intelligence officials come out of nowhere saying that it's a Kremlin plot. Media, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, Atlantic, a million other publications and newspapers go to bat for the Democratic Party and say that it's a Russian plot to have you know how corrupt they are. The DNC emails apparently was a plot to let you know they were cheating Bernie Sanders in their own primary. Everything that they do that's corrupt is either downplayed or ignored. Democratic prosecutors never indict Hunter, for example, but imagine if the tables were turned. Imagine if you had Republican prosecutors in a red state with Republicans running a city that is known, New York is known for Tammany Hall and a Democratic Party political machine. Imagine if the tables were turned. Imagine if Republicans indicted a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party while Trump was in office for 91 criminal charges, and then within the indictments, among the indictments, had a fraud trial where there's no victims, where the banks themselves stated that Trump did nothing wrong, or where the Democrat, and if you flip the script, did nothing wrong. Imagine if the tables were turned and Republicans were indicting Democrats. Oh my God, you would just hear nonstop, oh my God, this is the end of the world. This is the despots, totalitarians, authoritarians. Trump is a totalitarian. He's going after his direct political rivals. And so here you have President Trump being the victim of all of this. Let's continue.
Emblematic, but companies have been fleeing New York for years. A report from last August found that nearly 160 Wall Street firms have moved their headquarters out of New York since the end of 2019, taking nearly $1 trillion in assets with them. That's according to data from 17,000 companies compiled by Bloomberg. So the regulations, the regulatory environment is one thing, but if you add an arbitrary regulatory and justice environment on top of it, then yes, they could try to pretend like Donald Trump is an outlier. But who is next? Kind of answer that question you posited. Is it friends with Trump? Is it like Trump? Is it once treated about Trump? Where does it stop?
Well, I look at it as an investor. Remember, my job is to deploy capital every single day. I happen to be a developer of very high-end data centers for AI. So New York is a great destination for power because they got Niagara Falls. So sub 4 cents a kilowatt hour is what you need. You also need land to be able to buy that. You need to be in partnership with the government, and you need permits. But so does North Dakota have those attributes, or Oklahoma, or West Virginia, or Montana, or Tennessee. They're all the same. They're all competing. These centers cost $4.2 billion. Now, where am I going to go? This has nothing to do with politics. Why would I take the risk, the regulatory risk, in New York? In addition to the fact, as you pointed out, it's got the highest taxes in the country, the most punitive regulatory environment. It's very hard to get permits. And clearly people are questioning whether you can work with government there. The governor herself made a plea asking investors, don't worry about this. It's just this kind of investor that we charge $500 million for. Well, I'm sorry. We're all listening to that saying, no. No. You have to figure this out for yourself as a state, because the money is quietly going to the other states. That's where my $4.2 billion is
Kevin,
going.
you're right. You say
it's going somewhere else.
So he's going to win the appeal. It's just a matter of time. Discus Macabre, thank you so very much for the kind words. You know what? You look at the fact that businesses are moving. It's obviously political. It's motivated only by trying to tarnish Trump's 2024 run. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that this is about the rule of law. It's not about the rule of law. Let's listen to Alina Habba, who's a fantastic attorney, lawyer for Trump. She's fantastic.
Good evening. So let's talk about one thing that the press hasn't reported. We just listened to testimony from a man who has such distinct recognitions as an accounting expert that even Letitia James's team and the OAG's team used him themselves as an accounting expert. Professor Bartov was the New York Attorney General's expert in the Exxon case. Let's start there. But today, when he was on the other side, they spent the entire day objecting because he was giving testimony that didn't suit their claims. His testimony included that there was absolutely, and I quote, no fraud, that the statement of financial condition for President Trump was understated, that there was no evidence of concealment, and that, in fact, President Trump's statements of financial condition had something that most other statements of financial condition don't have. 18 pages of descriptions and details about his properties, about his trophy assets, things that most people don't need to do and wouldn't do. The reason, because he had nothing to hide and he didn't conceal anything. This is not a publicly traded company. This is a private company. And the Attorney General is now sticking her nose into private companies. This is a very scary moment for our country. We have to have boundaries. We have to have laws. They were objecting every 5 minutes, and I really give credit today to the press that was in there. I did look at some of the feed, and it was accurate. There was absolutely no fraud. The statements were undervalued, and President Trump and the Trump Organization provided Deutsche Bank with everything they needed. Last week, we heard banks make clear that they thought they were a trophy client. They were the big whale that they wanted to get, and they valued their relationship. They said that holds true today. I don't know why we're here. I've said it before, and I say it again. Again, this case has absolutely no merit, and you don't have to believe me. A man that gives the Nobel Executive Committee recommendations on accounting and who should be recognized in accounting, that man that just sat in there for the entire day, made it very clear and had words with the AG and said, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I say it too. You should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you. I'm not going to speak about privileged information. At this time, the president is looking forward to taking the stand and once again making clear that he cooperated, he performed on his loans, they were paid ahead of schedule in some instances, always on time, and he was never in default. But somehow Ms. James needs to fulfill her political promise, so we're here and he'll be addressing all of that on Monday. Don't forget, though, he's going on Monday with the judge's gag order still in place, so he can't speak about certain things. He has to be so careful. That is so unconstitutional, in my opinion. We have First Amendment rights. We have rights as attorneys, Sixth Amendment rights, and those are all being violated. And he still wants to take the stand, even though my advice is at this point, you should never take the stand with a gag order. But he is so firmly against what is happening in this court and so firmly for the old America that we know, not this America, that he will take that stand on Monday.
What can we expect on Monday?
The same as we've heard. The same as we've heard from experts. He will clarify it. He will open himself up to whatever they want because he's not afraid. People that are afraid cower. President Trump doesn't cower. We'll be back on Monday with that, and tomorrow we'll hear more testimony from this incredibly intelligent man.
What was your client's reaction to the testimony today?
I think he made it clear. It's more frustration that we have wasted time, that they are doing election interference. This is a tactic that we've seen time and time again. This is not the first or last of it, and we're going to have to deal with it in all the other trials. But I really hope this is a lesson to those other AGs and DAs out there trying to make a name for themselves off of President Trump's back. If you're going to do it with garbage claims, it's going to come out because there are experts willing to put their heads out, willing to put their necks out, and willing to say that this is garbage. And we heard that today, the entire day, and we will hear that well into tomorrow. I don't speak about politics. I'm a lawyer.
But no, with all the cases that are stacked against him,
Yeah.
does he still feel confident about Monday, the outcome of this case and everything that is...
The outcome of this case was determined before we walked into court. Let's be clear. We're not walking into this court every day expecting that this judge is going to let us off. We already see what's happened in this court. This judge made his determination on summary judgment before we even walked in, before an expert took the stand. So let's not get it twisted. I'm not here fighting for that. I'm here fighting for America with him so that we can stop this. You know, that's the truth of it. And it's a very sad state of affairs. Today and many days we've asked for a directed verdict because there is no case.
So when Democrats get caught committing crimes, okay, there's a laptop with incriminating evidence, pay-to-play schemes where Hunter is literally being asked for influence. And people within Hunter's laptop are saying, hey, thanks for introducing us to your father, then Vice President Joe Biden. So Biden lied, and they keep saying, oh, that FBI agent, he was indicted. Like, the case against Hunter and Joe has nothing to do with that agent. It has everything to do with the laptop. Okay, that same laptop that 50 intelligence officials said was a Kremlin plot. Okay, basic logic. Democrats and media lack basic logic because they can't look in the mirror and say, oh, they're the ones actually committing crimes. So what they do is they accuse Trump of crimes so nobody sees the crimes that they're committing. Okay, Trump doesn't have a laptop. Trump doesn't have servers with top secret intel. Okay, Trump doesn't have like FTX money, Sam Bankman-Fried, $40 million. The second largest donor for the Democratic Party was a Ponzi scheme, a crypto Ponzi scheme. He doesn't have any of this stuff. These are arcane statutes that are never used against anybody that Democrats in New York used against their direct political rival. And if the tables were turned, they would then say, oh, my God, this is horrible. This is terrible. And he's a despot. He's a totalitarian. How come they're not the despots and totalitarians and authoritarians when they go after Trump? And like I said, it's going to be overturned on appeal. You'll hear from Jonathan Turley, a constitutional law scholar right now. It's going to be overturned.
Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor and a Fox News contributor. Professor, let's go back to the Donald Trump case, the real estate fraud case before Judge Engoron. You said last week that the verdict and the judgment in that case is going to make doing business in New York about as attractive as buying country estates during the French Revolution. Kathy Hochul apparently had some inkling of what you said because she came out to try to assuage the fears of people who do business in New York by saying this. Listen here.
I think that this is really an extraordinarily unusual circumstance that the law-abiding and rule-following New Yorkers who are business people have nothing to worry about because
you have nothing to worry about as long as you vote Democrat and you don't support Trump. If you support Trump, or if you're Trump or anyone associated with Trump in any blue state, it ain't going to work out well. And then whenever they act in an extraordinary, blatantly partisan and unjust manner with Trump, they say, well, Trump is unique. He's unique. It's like, no. They're the ones who break norms and traditions going after Trump in the manner they do, while they never go after, by the way, Democrats in the same manner.
They're very different than Donald Trump and his behavior.
The fact that she came out to soothe fears like that indicates that you probably either hit a nerve or you articulated the reality of what people are thinking in New York.
Well, it's a curious defense because what the governor is saying is you don't have to worry if you're not Donald Trump in New York. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That's why this judgment has to be reversed. But for businesses, if the only thing between them and this type of corporate public execution is the level of discretion of Letitia James, then they're going to move to Florida pretty quickly. I mean, the suggestion is don't worry, we've got your back. This is really something all about Trump. Well, tomorrow it might be all about them. People in business look for those liabilities they can control. They're margin actors. They look to see am I going to be able to flourish? And in the past, New York has drawn businesses because of its legal system. There's always been a lot of crime. There's always been all of these inconveniences with New York. But it was also the center not just of business, but of business law. What James did is erased all of that. She campaigned on bagging Donald Trump. She used a law that has never been used in this way against him. And she got a judge who just imposed damages that are greater than the GNP of some countries.
Trump said this about that judgment in the campaign trail over the weekend. Listen here.
The case is a complete and total sham. It's a sham case. There were no victims, no defaults, no damages, no complaints, no nothing. There was nothing.
There was nothing here. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else who said that Letitia James charged the person. She didn't charge the crime.
Yeah, part of the disconnect here is that you have what will be over $455 million if you include interest. And then on the other side of the ledger, you have zero. There's not a single dollar lost by these victims. In fact, the people that James calls the victims actually wanted to do more business with Donald Trump. They said they made a lot of money and they viewed him as a whale client. They wanted more loans with him. And what's really insidious about this is that there's another provision in New York law that requires Trump to pony up the full amount or to get a bond for that amount just to appeal this decision. So it's a sort of a perverse incentive for figures like this judge. He made this so large that it could force Trump to liquidate assets in New York just to be able to get other judges to look at this. So it's a grossly unfair situation, and I expect a lot of businesses are very uneasy after watching this unfold.
Yeah, I mean, they just increased the tax base by a whole lot, theoretically. Maybe there are other big whales to go after as well. Professor.
So he appealed the case today, and it's only a matter of time before it gets overturned. This is so blatant. You know, the average American understands what a bully is, who a bully is, and they understand that Trump is the one being bullied. Even Democrats revel in the fact that you have Democrats in New York going after Trump. It's purely partisan. It's the antithesis of the rule of law. It has nothing to do with the rule of law, and nobody lost money. So how on earth are you going to accuse Trump of fraud when nobody loses money? Meanwhile, you have a laptop where the New York Post actually publishes emails that say, how can you use your influence on the company's behalf to Hunter? And this is within the context of Joe forcing out a prosecutor and saying, you're not going to get $1 billion in loan guarantees. He told on himself, literally a quid pro quo, you will not get this. And then they impeached Trump on an ellipsis within a transcript of a phone call that he knew was being listened in on. They tried desperately because they have virtually the entire media narrative. Democrats virtually have the entire media narrative. So they keep on yelling the same nonsense. Trump's guilty of fraud. And then you look at it and he's not. It's just that Democrats in New York convicted him. And now he's going to appeal, because if they don't appeal, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars will leave New York. And you see what's taking place. Like, nothing works out for Democrats when they go after Trump. In Georgia, you see what's taking place. Nobody would have known the relationship between the two prosecutors and the fact that allegedly they only used cash when it pertained to getting paid for legal services. Nobody would have known that. Okay, businesses wouldn't be leaving New York had Democrats not tried desperately to go after Trump. So the appeals courts are not stupid. They know exactly what's going on. They know that there was no victim. Okay, and they also know that the same banks that they accused Trump of defrauding made money, viewed him to be a whale of a client, and basically it's a statute that was never used, hasn't been used in 70 plus years. Okay, prosecutorial discretion. When it comes to, like, for example, the former the Honorable James Comey stated that no reasonable prosecutor would indict Clinton for top secret intelligence on private servers for 4 years, which is not only highly illegal, it's impossible from a cybersecurity perspective to have top secret intel on private servers. But they said no reasonable prosecutor. Then with Biden, they said, well, you know what? The special counsel said he's elderly and he can't remember things, so we're not going to indict him. With Trump, he didn't even commit fraud, and they still indicted him for fraud. He wasn't an operative of the Kremlin, and they still had a Mueller probe. with that showed nothing. Then they say, oh, the Kremlin interfered. Not one person chose Trump over Clinton because of a bot or because of a Facebook ad. So they can't prove any of their absurd nonsense. Let's continue, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe, by the way, if you're new to this channel. All right, let's go here. Alina Habba is awesome.
Before we even walked into this courtroom, I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Then why exactly am I being paid as an attorney, and why exactly are taxpayer dollars being used in this courtroom? The answer is very clear. Because Miss James wants to stand right here like she did this morning and call my client a liar, call the company fraudulent, and make a name for herself. She said this morning that the numbers don't lie, and they won't lie in this case. Well, Miss James, I have a message for you. The numbers didn't lie when you ran for governor, and that's why you dropped out. And the numbers don't lie when President Trump runs for office in 2024. And those numbers are loud and clear. This country is falling apart. And if we don't stop corruption in courtrooms where attorneys are gagged, where attorneys are not allowed to say what they need to say to protect their clients' interests, it doesn't matter what your politics are. Everyone has a right in this country to get up and put a defense. I don't care who you are. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can put objections on the record. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, that clip isn't working well. But basically, the fix was in from the moment that they went after Trump. They were never going to. They were never going to look at this in a fair and neutral and impartial manner. They just simply want to get some kind of emotional and political victory. They want to bankrupt Trump, which isn't going to happen. Because like I've been telling you on this channel, you can look. It's public record. He just made $10 billion. Okay? $10 billion with the Truth Social merger. Okay? So that's pretty amazing. All right? Pretty amazing. $10 billion. Then you have $500 million that he's made just in terms of the appreciation of certain properties since he's left office. Then you have the sneakers. Then you have a whole bunch. Everything he touches, he makes hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's like his net worth is $3.1 billion. He's not going to worry about $500 million. And furthermore, he'll get a loan. He'll get a loan if he had to pay it. And it's going to be overturned on appeal anyway. So let's listen to President Trump on this.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country. A New York State judge just ruled that he's crooked as you could get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James, they've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China, this is the single opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here. So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me. He said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. And Letitia James, that's another case altogether. She's a horribly corrupt attorney general, and it's all having to do with election interference. There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million. And by the way, I paid approximately $300 million in taxes as the migrants come in and they take over New York. I paid over this period of years over $300 million in taxes, and they want me out. Oh, let's see if we can get them out. These are radical left Democrats. They're lunatics, and it's election interfering. So I just want to thank you for being here. We'll appeal. We'll be successful, I think, because, frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State, and because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate. They used a statute. It's a consumer fraud statute that's never been used for a thing like this before. They used it on me because I'm running for president. I'm beating Biden by a lot. We're beating not only the Republicans, we're beating Biden by a lot. The poll came out today. We're up 20 points on Biden. If I weren't running, none of this stuff would have ever happened. None of these lawsuits would have ever happened. Nothing would. I would have had a nice life. But I enjoy this life for a different reason. We're going to make America great again. These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together, who doesn't know what he's doing. And we're heading into a third world war because of this guy. We have to win this election. They're doing everything possible to step in our way, but we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much. We will get back to work. It's a ridiculous award. Listen, a fine of $355 million for doing a perfect job, for having paid back a loan with no defaults, with no problems. The banks were totally, at the trial they testified. We had an expert witness from the Stern School at NYU that made a statement, and I was very honored by his statement. He's one of the most respected people anywhere in the country for doing this kind of thing, expert witness. He said, this is one of the greatest financial statements I have ever witnessed before. And he talked about even the detail. So my numbers actually were extremely conservative. They saw this, so what the judge did is he brought down certain values like Mar-a-Lago, made it ridiculous, but the expert, after having all of this, testified it's one of the best financial statements he's ever seen. And I was honored by that. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man. And again, I said before, he's been overturned on this case by the appellate division 4 times already. It's a record. Nobody's ever been overturned on one case 4 times. And I think very importantly, and I think ultimately the most important, we've employed tens of thousands of people in New York, and we paid taxes like few other people have ever paid in New York. And they don't care about that. It's a state that's going bust. It's a state that's going bust because everybody's leaving. And it's all headed up by Biden, who's destroying our country. So this is Russia, this is China, this is what you've been reading about all your lives, and it's happening right here in our country. Thank you very much. We will stop it. We will make America great again. You have my word.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have historical context with these moments with Alina Habba, President Trump, a very, very important scholar, Jonathan Turley. Let's listen to also Mr. Wonderful again, Kevin O'Leary, in a second. But the verdict will get overturned on appeal, okay? It will get overturned on appeal. Hello, everybody. Hello, Robert. Hello, everyone. Micro Blue. Hello, exactly. They are going over, and by the way, Paul Bartlett, thank you so much. To my viewers in Australia, around the world, in the Philippines, I love you. New Zealand, the UK, Canada, Nepal, thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate the support. This is going to be another loss for Democrats. They will lose probably, I would say, in a unanimous Supreme Court ruling when it comes to the Colorado ban. The Supreme Court will overturn the Colorado ban, I think, by 9-0, at least 7-2. That will be a huge rebuke. That will be a biblical statement of epic proportions against a blatantly partisan. I mean, you'd have to be stupid to think that you could just ban Trump from a state ballot because you think he committed a rebellion. Not because he was convicted. But anyway, we've talked about that endlessly. So they're going to lose that. Democrats will lose that huge Supreme Court case, which will also dismantle the D.C. case, which is also complete nonsense. Trump didn't foment or, compel anyone to commit any crimes. Okay, that's also an absurd leap of logic. But he didn't commit any fraud. There was not 1 cent, not $1, not even $10 lost by these banks. Okay, he didn't even commit even $1 of fraud. Okay, unlike Democrats in 2016 who said it would be fair and neutral and pocketed money that the Bernie Sanders campaign was given because they thought that it was fair and neutral. But hit subscribe to this channel if you're new, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue with Kevin O'Leary talking about how this will be overturned.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. So part of the judgment here, it's not just the dollar amount. Donald Trump is barred from operating a business in New York for 3 years. One of my questions is, all right, let's say this all stands 3 years down the line. Why on earth would he want to come back here to do business after this?
Well, this case really isn't just about Donald Trump. This is an assault on the 11th sector of the S&P 500, which is real estate. Step back and think about what this means for the state of New York. Development of real estate creates millions of jobs in America. And once the buildings are stabilized and rented out or used for commercial real estate or whatever, they generate cash flow and they're put into REITs. And you and I invest in those. Retirees invest in them. And that's how they get income. That's why it became the 11th sector of the S&P. It's so important to the American economy. Very few sectors generate as much cash as this does. And so if you're a developer, you're an entrepreneur, you go to a bank and you say, look, I want to borrow $200 million to build a building. And they say, well, what assets do you have we can secure this loan against? And you point to a building you built before. And you haggle and you argue about the value of that building. This goes on in every city on earth. That's how real estate developers who are entrepreneurs and take risk borrow money. That's exactly what happened here. Now, all of a sudden, after this is built successfully and finished, for some reason, this judge takes it upon himself to fine this developer. Forget that it's Trump. This is not about Trump anymore. If you're a developer and you see this happen in the state of New York, why would you take the risk to put up this much money and have a judge arbitrarily decide that you are in some form of breach of fraud when no damages occurred at all? And this is the same process that occurs everywhere. This is about the competition of states. I thought before this judgment that the #1 loser state in America was California, which is basically putting itself out of business slowly and surely. But after this judgment, I'm going to make New York the #1 loser state, followed by California, then Massachusetts, New Jersey, Michigan. These are places where taxes are not competitive. Delaware, for example, is now on the loser state list because it's unstable policy on the Elon Musk decision. You don't have to put your money into places where this kind of thing happens. Each of us as investors, we vote with our capital. Why punish a great state because it doesn't happen to be on the east or west coast? I say go to Florida, go to Texas, go to North Dakota, Oklahoma, West Virginia. These are winner states. Why go to a loser state like New York?
Well, I think a lot of people are doing precisely that, not just with their businesses, but with their families as well. Kevin, we were quoting yesterday, the Associated Press said they could not find another case like this in 70 years under this law, the application of this law in New York. Have you ever seen anything like we just witnessed from this judge and this AG?
No, I never have. And frankly, what's occurred all around the world with developers look at this and don't understand why this complaint was brought forward in the first place. And my own opinion is that this will be overturned eventually somewhere. It has to be, because this is so damaging to business in New York. I mean, this stands up on the, if it did stand up, it would basically tell you as an investor to avoid this jurisdiction because of the unstable policy. It's wrong in every way. I don't know how an arbitrary amount of $355 million was assigned to this, or why you'd ban this particular developer from developing for 3 years. Forget about the Trump factor. It's not about that. What does this say to everybody that wants to do work in New York, that wants to risk capital? I mean, it's a huge mistake. And this judge arbitrarily deciding that this is the right amount, I don't understand it. No developer does. It's an atrocity. It's an embarrassment. But it's an assault on real estate, the 11th sector of the S&P 500. Why? This is crazy. And of course, it's got to be appealed and it'll be reversed eventually. It can't stand. It makes no sense.
Well, Kevin, I know.
So you heard it from Kevin O'Leary. The appeal will be successful. It'll be reversed. And New York is not going to lose billions upon billions of dollars in real estate. And then think about, they're not just going to lose billions just to get Trump. So it's going to be appealed. And he's going to, the initial victory was the appeal, process, initiating the appeal. So he appealed today. That's a victory in and of itself. They probably would have found some way in New York to prevent him from appealing if they could. But this was a huge victory today, just starting the process, in my view. And you look, ladies and gentlemen, and the socialist or the left-leaning person in New York, let's say there's a socialist or a communist, let's just say perhaps in Brooklyn or whatever, okay, or anywhere in New York or California or Portland or Oregon or wherever. Let's say there's a socialist that said, well, Trump committed fraud and he shouldn't do business in New York. You can add the tax revenue from every single socialist in the country or every single communist or socialist in the world. You're probably not even going to get close to the tax revenue generated by Trump throughout his entire life. How many tens or hundreds of thousands of people has Trump employed in New York City and in cities throughout the world to build skyscrapers, resorts, hotels, casinos? How much, just forget about the personal income tax, because that's what the New York Times and others focused on. If you look at the city taxes, the permits, the taxes on just the structure, the metal beams, the wood, the windows, the paint, everything. I mean, there's an unending list of things that you need to actually build a skyscraper in New York. And each of those have sales tax when you buy them, okay? And then you're talking about the economic engine. So when people work to build a skyscraper for Trump in New York, then they can pay to feed their families, to clothe their families. They can buy a hot dog or a pizza, anywhere in New York. And so it's an economic engine that AOC doesn't understand or comprehend. That's why when she stated that Amazon didn't pay taxes, she didn't realize that if Amazon brings thousands of workers to New York, those thousands of people will pay sales tax, will pay income tax, city tax, state tax, and then they'll be able to create more wealth for everyone within the city and the state. But see, a socialist doesn't understand that basic economic concept. Okay, so if you're on the far left, your entire life is predicated upon helping poor people. And ironically, the ideology predicated upon helping poor people actually makes people poorer. It actually makes people less wealthy. So Democrats are going after Trump, not realizing that people will be less wealthy. Poverty will increase because you've tried to go after Trump. People will leave New York. Developers will leave New York. And that's the reason, one of the reasons it'll be overturned. I mean, like what Democrats have tried to do is they've tried to get these short-term victories, but it's been 7 years of the most apoplectic, hysterical outrage and indignation against Trump. Nobody cares anymore. Trump could be convicted 50 times and he'd win in a landslide in 24. He will win in a landslide. Nobody cares. If people want a better economy than what we have now, they want a better foreign policy. They want the border addressed. They want a lot of things taken care of. We tried Biden after Trump, and now we're going back to Trump for a reason. Let's go ahead and give you some context with Donald Trump Jr.
I sort of a boring cross-exam. I thought they were going to go somewhere, but I think they understand that they have nothing as it relates to a case other than, I guess, an overzealous attorney general who would destroy all of New York business by going after transactions where there are no victims, I guess, other than herself. But you guys have got to think about the precedent that this case sets. If an attorney general can years later, after all parties of transactions are paid back in full, with interest, making hundreds of millions of dollars, where they have no complaint, where they said they wouldn't have done anything differently, where every witness, as it relates to my brother and I, every witness that the Attorney General has called have said that my brother and I were not involved in the statement of financial condition. That even includes their star witness, the perjurer-in-chief, Michael Cohen, who's perjured himself probably more times than any human being I can think of. Even he said, perhaps the one time he was actually telling the truth in all of this, that my brother and I had nothing to do with it, but it doesn't matter because it's a witch hunt. It always has been. But the precedent that it sets for New York business, if you don't perhaps donate to Letitia James' re-election campaign, I too will go after your billion-dollar transactions. It's ripe for extortion and corruption, but, that's what you get from the Democrat Party in New York these days, it seems. So it's a scary precedent. I don't know how anyone could do business in this city with that. Anyone you speak to who's actually in banking, who's actually in real estate, understands that. But again, they don't want to put themselves in the crosshairs, so perhaps they'll be silent. So it's a disgrace that this is happening right now, but I think we'll make our points, we'll make our case, and we'll go on from there. So you guys have a great day. Thank you. No, listen, I got to find out about my aunt passing away, literally. Not really what I want to talk about, but I got to, literally about, as I pulled up here this morning, I found out, my aunt passed away. Not a great swing thought, in the back of your head as you're going to deal with this sort of insanity. I'm very close with her grandson. We hang out all the time, and so it's obviously a rough day for that, but unfortunately it is what it is. This is what it's become, right? Every day there's going to be another nonsense, another lawsuit. They're going to keep trying, and reality, facts, that doesn't matter because that's where we've gotten in a politicized country. So it's a shame, and we'll deal with that accordingly. I think I'm done, actually. I don't, they had the opportunity to cross-examine me, a rather mean-spirited attempt to try to do something, but they didn't get into any details in the cross because they've been able to play this out in the press. Donald Trump Jr. doesn't know anything about the finances of the company, according to. No, they asked me specifically about the statement of financial condition, one document of billions, and like I said, every witness that they have said has, under oath, said that Eric, myself, we had nothing to do with the document. No, nothing. Even Cohen, like I said. But that is the basis for why we are apparently already guilty of fraud, having never even heard from us at that point before ever hearing from these witnesses. So that's why, it's a little bit ridiculous, right? You can't even make your case before, oh, wait, this is it. Well, the document that you're relying on this, I'm not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors. Right? Do you understand? Am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy. I went through each and every one of our deals. Had they asked me those questions, I could have very easily answered them, but I can't answer questions about a document that literally everyone acknowledges I had nothing to do with it. I rely on the accountants to do that.
It seems like you had a pretty good rapport with Judge Engoron. The defense has been pretty hard on him. What's your view?
It was, perhaps there's a New York personality there, but no, I think he understood. I can't help myself even in a very serious situation. If you take yourself too seriously, the world sort of sucks. You got to have a little bit of fun with it. So I did. We had some, quips in the courtroom. The first time I was here, sort of gave me a fist bump on the way out. I guess I had a rather snappy response to something that was, I can't even remember what it was right now. And he said, that was really funny. And sort of, so,
Do you share your dad's views about how...
Listen, I'm not going to, I don't even know how far the gag order applies. So, I don't need to do that and put myself, I'm in enough crosshairs, guys. But again, this is about the Attorney General going after and prosecuting their political enemies. And if you don't believe that, just listen to what she said before she was ever Attorney General, right? We're going to go after Trump. We're going to go. We're in New York. It's bullshit, okay, is what it is. But that doesn't matter because it's also New York, because it is so one-sided. And that's the reality of the world in which we live today. So we got to play accordingly. But
for Biden, you did.
So the verdict will be overturned on appeal. Okay. That's not really up for debate. The political component here is that you have Democrats in Tammany Hall in New York going after Trump. If the tables were reversed, if they flipped the script, and it was a red state, conservatives, Republicans in a city known to be, conservative, run by Republicans, going after a Democrat, the Washington Post and the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN would say that Trump was a despot and an authoritarian, and Republicans are totalitarians, and they're going after the direct political rival. And when they do it to Trump, it's, well, nobody is above the rule of law. I mean, you can't get, these are the most overt hypocrites. But it doesn't matter. Trump is up by 4 points plus in Michigan. He wins Michigan. He wins either Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Wisconsin. He's won 24. He's already doing very well in Georgia and everywhere else, Nevada. So you look, ladies and gentlemen, and it's only a matter of time before just Trump. Look, this is a countdown. This is a countdown, ladies and gentlemen, to 24, November of 24. Okay. I want to play one more speech from President Trump, and then we'll call it. And be here. If you're new to this channel, hit subscribe. Be here at 10 p.m. I know I've been saying that Yesterday we didn't have one, but we'll have a segment. I was going to do one on Nikki Haley. We'll do one on Nikki Haley this evening, 10 p.m. Eastern. But let's listen to Trump.
Lord, all you need is one stair, but for Biden you need many. But when I imitate him with the stairs, because he never can find his way. If you ever see Secret Service runs up and grabs him and, helps him off the stage. This is what we have negotiating nuclear weapons. So he finishes his speech, and do you ever notice? He finishes it. The speeches last about, would you say average 2-3 minutes, right? Very quick. They're very quick and not good. Not good. But the press gives him good marks. I remember when he made such a bad State of the Union speech. Everything was stumbling, mumbling. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And I said, I'm going to watch CNN, MSDNC to find out what they say, because that was one of the worst speeches. They said, not since FDR has there been a speech so magnificently delivered. I'm telling you, I've never, ever forgotten it. Not since FDR. I said, it's impossible. They're fake. They're terrible. But you know what? When he goes, and he always points, he goes like this. Thank you. Where am I? Thank you. And then he goes, and he points. You ever notice? And it's always he ends up going in the opposite direction ultimately. But he goes, and then sometimes he trips over the machine. And then we don't have it here. But if there's a wall behind him, he ends up walking into the wall. And then one of these incredible guys from Secret Service, all these beautiful guys, they run up stage. Look at these guys like central casting, right? They'll run up stage, they'll grab them, and they're not meant to smile. They're very hard line. When I tell stories, they're like this. I guess they're trained that way. They never smile. You say, good morning. Well, sure. They actually turn away. It's good. This way you don't have to say good morning all the time, okay? They train them this way. But one of these guys will run up and grab him and take him off the stage. This is what we have as our president. But the worst thing is when I do that, the fake news. I call up my wife, our great first lady. She was a great first. People love her. Yeah, people love her. Oh, look at that. Wow. Mercedes, that's pretty good. Yeah, she's good. And she loves our country and she loves the people. It's true. When I give these big rallies, we give rallies, they say, we love our First Lady. They have signs, we love her. They always show a high heel, But we love our First Lady. But I call up our First Lady, I say, so baby, how good was that? She goes, you were okay. She's a very tough critic. I'll go into a group, I'll speak in front of 55, 56, 68,000 people sometimes. I'll call her up, I'll say, how good was I tonight? Was that unbelievable? She goes, well, your hair didn't look good. Oh, that's not good. But it's very hard to get once in a while she goes, you were really good tonight, but that's like a major. But I said, in this case, I said, how good was that tonight? She said, you were really good tonight, but what happened? You couldn't find your way off the stage. Because the fake news said Donald Trump couldn't find his way off the stage. I said, wow. Or when I interject a name.
Ladies and gentlemen, the people who dislike Trump, they're just going to have to deal with him for the next 4 years because we had a great economy with Trump and a great foreign policy. None of the things he's been accused of, he actually did. And the people who actually do commit crimes, very likely Hunter, Joe, others, if they get indicted under Trump's presidency, you watch, Democrats, media will say, oh my God, Trump's a despot. But when they indict Trump, it's, oh my God, nobody's above the rule of law. Hit subscribe to this channel. The appeal, it's already a huge victory just to get the appeal going. He will win on appeal. He'll win the overturning the Colorado case in the Supreme Court. He'll win in November. He'll just keep winning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'll be back at 10 p.m. Eastern. So be here at 10 p.m. Eastern, everyone. Hit subscribe. We are on our way to 300,000 subs, probably before November. Hit subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your support. And I'll start doing, if you're new to this channel, I have the stock market crash channel and I have the Bitcoin crash channel. Keep an eye out in the next couple of days for uploads, because this channel I'm going to focus on my live streams. They're doing amazingly well. Thank God and thank you watching. But you'll probably get an upload on the stock market crash channel. So go to the homepage on YouTube here, and you can hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel. You'll be getting, Betsy, thank you. You'll be getting notifications for the uploads on the stock market crash channel. So hit subscribe there. Thank you so very much, everyone. Paul Bartlett, I cannot thank you enough. To my viewers